Zidane Danny, Electro Ninja here, and welcome back to Nerd Chat here on Electro Ninja's Lab. I am here with my fellow host,
I'm Jack.
and we are going to be discussing Minecraft, specifically the fact that there is a new update. It's currently only in Bedrock, um, but it will be coming to Java probably this Tuesday, with the Copper Golem finally showing up, which is absolutely exciting. For those of you who do not remember, um, the Copper Golem was part of the mob vote back in 2023. Or sorry, I'm wrong. Sorry, 2021. Yeah, it was in the Minecraft vote in 2021, and it lost to the LA, which was very sad. A lot of people were wanting the Copper Golem, and the Copper Golem, as far as we're aware, the Copper Golem is the most requested of all of the mob vote losers. Um, so yeah, uh, I would like to also just briefly say, um, the mob vote losers, the only ones that were said they will never show up again. They've never said this for any of the others. Was the Barnacle, the Great Hunger, and the Wildfire. Those three are the only ones that they have specifically said they will never come to Minecraft. However, there have been hints that they've been kind of like getting out there that they are kind of rethinking that idea. Um, what exactly that could mean, I don't know. But yeah. But talking about the Copper Golem specifically, for one, the Copper Golem coming back is adding a lot more stuff to do with copper, because of the fact that obviously copper is so prevalent in Minecraft, but there's so little
It's
use
kind of
for it.
annoying how prevalent it is.
There's so much of it, and you use so little of it. So they're kind of using this. At least at this point, it looks like they're using this update to kind of get around that and to fix that issue. Um, because not only have they implemented the copper golem and the copper chest, which are very connected. We'll talk about them in a sec. But they've also implemented copper armor and tools, which are kind of sitting between stone and iron when it comes to usability.
That's
So
handy.
it's
About
very
time I had used for copper.
yeah. It honestly it's extremely helpful, and I think that a lot of people are probably going to use those tools, even if they don't necessarily need them. Like obviously you it looks like it will be a much better option from what I've seen. Um, because a lot of people, obviously, you can go for stone tools, that's whatever. But by getting the copper tools, one, they will last longer than stone tools, but they're iron tools. You really don't want to use them until you have gotten, unless you're specifically dealing with things that you can only get with an iron pick. Um, because iron is so less prevalent. And then obviously when you get
Yes,
to
very plain.
and then obviously after once you get to diamond, then you want to focus on diamond. Diamond is the better option. Um, so yeah, uh, and but but for the early game, this is fantastic. This is going to be such a game changer. I think a lot of people are going to be thrilled to be able to use copper tools, copper gear, copper weapons. Um, and it's one of those things that a lot of people were saying would be it should have been a thing from the get go. Because right now copper is pretty much just used as a building block. There's very little reason to use it for anything else. There have been some rumors. I don't think that it was specifically that copper buttons and copper pressure plates might be added, but those have not been actually implemented yet. I would like to. I think that that's Yeah. So yeah, copper buttons. They've only ever been mentioned with the copper golem. And I think same thing goes for the pressure plate. Those have not been implemented. Uh, if you some memes have been showing that they have been implemented, they have not been. So keep that in mind. Um, but I do think that they will probably give more uses to copper. I think one thing that might be interesting to do is especially since they did add nuggets, is that they might do something along the lines of some of the items that you can get from iron will be implemented as being able to be crafted with copper. Maybe they won't be as useful or whatever. Um, my first thought is that they might add a copper um, hopper, perhaps, and maybe it will be faster than it'll be faster at moving things than the iron one, but it will have less space. I think that would be a reasonable that might be a reasonable thing to do. Um, there could be a copper basin or cauldron, whatever you want to call it. I don't know exactly what use how exactly useful that would be. But they did at one point add that in a joke update, so that would make sense. I don't know. There's a lot of different things that they could do. Um, they could also use copper to basically be involved with cooking, because granted,
Oh,
like just that's just me spitballing because they have kind of been hinting that they might be doing something with food related at some point soon, like adding more food options and honestly, I'm not certain exactly how that's going to work out, but I think that'd be fun. Um, but yeah, the copper golem itself, though, um, is really interesting because it's it basically is a auto sorter, which granted you can make an auto sorter. It's not hard to do with redstone and some hoppers and all that jazz. Um, but this will give your builds a little bit more life. Um, Basically, you can set down your copper chest, or when you're building your copper golem, then you get the copper chest yourself. And basically, the copper golem will check the copper chest for any items, and then it will put those items into your various chests. Um, exactly how that's going to be, how people are going to use that, I don't know. I really don't yet. Um, because it could be really useful, but it also could be really only something that a lot of early games will early parts of the game will use until you can get like a shit ton of iron. Because once you can get a ton of iron, then you can make you can make pretty simple auto crafters, or not auto crafters, auto sorters, and people will,
true.
yeah. I think it will probably be most useful in like temporary setups. So if you might be able to like um, set up your bring over a whole bunch of chests, bring over a few shulker boxes, um, and or basically while maybe like you're gathering stuff, you put the shulker box on top of on a hopper on top of the copper chest, and then the copper golem will check the copper chest, and then sort it all out to wherever it needs to go. Um, exact details, I'm not certain. I think that there's a lot of complicatedness with it, so who knows?
Okay.
Uh, but I think that it'll be interesting. I do have to say though, I think that the limit, because the limit right now is 16 of an item. It cannot grab more than 16 of an item right now, and I think that that's a little too small. I think that they should have gone for a full 64 stack as what he can carry, because that'll save a lot of time and energy.
That makes
Um,
sense.
yeah. Uh, I have seen that there are some glitches right now, but one thing that I think this is going to be really used for is sorting non-stackables. I think that that's going to be the thing that a lot of people are going to be using it for, um, because that's been an issue for years, especially with mob farms. Because basically, people will they'll have an auto sorter, and then they just have a junk chest at the end for all of the non-stackables, and this way, um, they can then they could continue to have it go into the junk chest, but that junk chest could then be used, could turn into the copper golem, and the copper golem would then sort it out to wherever it needs to go, um, to become the best option. So I'm not certain exactly how well that's going to go, because there's a lot of complicatedness when it comes to that, because with like um, durability and stuff like that. So they might need to tweak it. I'm not even certain if he can even move item like swords and all that jazz. I think that there's been some issues right now, some glitches and stuff that they're working to fix. So we'll know for sure once the update fully drops. But for now, that's just some of my thought process. But I think that the bigger thing that this is interesting to me is, could this mean that other mobs that we haven't that we don't know when the heck they're coming, or if they're not coming, could this mean that we'll be getting some of those back? For the record, the Barnacle, the Great Hunger, and the Wildfire, those guys were when the first mob vote happened. Those guys were confirmed. These guys are not coming back. When the next vote was the biome vote, which they specifically said from that point that all of these mobs are coming. When exactly is kind of up in the air. Basically, you get this. If whichever one you vote for, that's going to be the one that we're going to focus on now, and then eventually we're going to add those other mobs. And that was for those ones. It was the meerkat, the ostrich, the termite, and the vulture. Those are the ones that still remain, as they haven't come into the game yet. But termites, to me, I think that they're probably going to be more of a particle effect, kind of like how the fireflies have become.
I like the fireflies.
They're so fun, and I think that that's actually like one of the best things that they've done with the firefly, because obviously the way that they had originally planned for the fireflies to be implemented is that frogs would eat them, but then they found out that fireflies are actually toxic to frogs, so they decided to just scrap the idea at first, and then they added the firefly bush, which makes them a particle, and I think that's such a good idea, and I really want to see them use that idea for other creatures, for other insects, especially. Like maybe there could be like some trash or something that you throw on the ground, and ants will like swarm around it.
Oh, that would be cool.
That would be so cool. The termites, because we do know that will eventually come. Basically, the termite mounds will have the termites like wandering around it, and it's not actually going to be a mob that you can get, but rather it's going to be something along the lines of, hey, the termite exists, and it's basically just wandering around the area, and maybe
I like that concept a lot.
I don't know exactly how that would be implemented, but I think that would be so much fun to see that.
I would agree with that.
And various different things, like I don't know, maybe a corpse flower to have flies, a butterfly bush or a dragonfly bush. I would love those, especially because there are
butterfly bush.
That would be so much fun, yeah. different bushes, like I said, where that are going to be for various different insects. That would go a long way to basically giving life to the world of Minecraft. And I
It
think
really would.
they're probably thinking along those same lines. Um, but as for the other mobs, the mobs that people kind of assume that they are never coming back, and that was kind of a big issue when it came to the Copper Golem. Is a lot of people thought, oh, the Copper Golem's never going to come back because it was never because of the fact that the original mob vote, they specifically said that these mobs will never come back. And then when it came to the biome vote, they said that these will be coming, but we're not certain exactly when. A lot of people assumed that that was just for the biome votes, and then the mob votes were these mobs are never coming back. However, they have never specifically said that they were never coming back. So I think that they never intended for these mobs to be gone for a good. I think that they always intended to eventually implement the Copper Golem, to always implement the Glare, the Moo Bloom, the Isolager, the Penguin, the Rascal, the Tough Golem, all of those. I think they always planned on implementing all of them. The Crab. It just obviously they needed to. They wanted to take some time to actually implement these things. And I think that it would be a reasonable assumption to make that they might implement the Tough Golem with the Copper Golem. Like, why not just put two golems together? Bring in one, bring in both. I think that'd be fun.
That makes sense.
A lot of people are thinking that the Glare is going to come back. I don't think that they're going to implement that right away. Just due to the fact that it's kind of a niche mob anyways, and I think that needs a lot more work. It's a cute mob, but at the same time, it's... I think the way that frickin' Ice Cream Sandwich said when he was when the LA showed up, he said that it's just the F3 screen, and while that's kind of mean, it's kind of accurate, and you can access the F3 screen no matter what you're I think it's a little bit more complicated when it comes to Bedrock. I don't know exact details with that, but that will show you where the F3 screen will show you what the light level is, and the Glare would basically do the exact same thing. So, I don't know. The Glare was just kind of a weird situation anyways, and I think that if they're going to implement the Glare, I think they need to do some more research on exactly how they want to do that. And figure out what they're going to do. I think of all of the mobs, I think the Moo Bloom makes the most sense because they are they're so big fans of it. It's a cute mob. It's basically just another mushroom, but it's specifically about flowers. And I think
I'm here for that.
Yeah, why wouldn't you be? And I think that probably the best option for it would be that it would when you milk it, it gives you like suspicious stew or something, and it will be specifically based on the milk it with a bowl. It'll give you whatever the suspicious stew is that it has as a with the flour. The specific flour that it has will determine what suspicious stew it is. I don't know exact details.
I can do that.
I don't know exact details with that, so I'm not gonna say this is how this works, blah 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 blah, because I don't know how it works. But yeah, but that's the one that they've talked the most about as like, hey, we want this to come back. So I wouldn't be surprised if the Moo Bloom comes back. A lot of people are saying the Crab because it would extend reach, which I can kind of understand that. But I'm not certain. I think that doesn't really make sense considering the fact that they were specifically talking about caves. One thing that some people have been talking about is that the Rascal or the Tough Golem could show up. Um, I think those two make the most sense because at this point in time, it seems like it's more of a cave update rather than anything else. So the Tough Golem coming back would make sense. The Rascal coming back because it lived in the mines and it would basically give you items if you found it. Um, I think that either of those guys would make a lot more sense than the crab or any of the other mobs, for that matter. Um,
Fair.
yeah. But yeah, there's a lot of different things that they've kind of been hinting at lately. Apparently, there's like a list of if you go onto the Minecraft wiki, they actually have a list of a whole bunch of mobs that they have mentioned on their social media, and that's all it is. But I think that they could be those could be very interesting to see if maybe they will be implementing those. I wouldn't be surprised actually if a massive mob update were to happen soon. Um,
That would be really cool.
it really would. And part of my thinking with the current drop system is that this update seems to be it could be bigger. It could be like one of the biggest of the 3 drops. Because let's see, I don't even remember what the first 2 were. This most recent one was the Happy Gas. That was what that implemented that. What was the first one? I'm forgetting what the first one was this year. Do you remember?
I don't know. Nope.
I think it was. Did it? I don't even think it implemented a mob. I don't remember. What was the drops? Well, I think it was the spring drop is what it was. Spring to life. I think that was what it was. Yeah, spring to life. Let's see here. Okay, so that was mostly that implemented the leaf litter, the bush, the firefly bush, the cactus flower, the tall grass, and the variants on some mobs. That's what it was. That's what I was trying to figure out. Okay, that's right. Yeah. So that's right. It makes sense. Um, yeah, they implemented mostly like various different things that were happening around the world. That's what it was. So I think one thing that I've been kind of thinking for a while is they will probably be switching to Minecraft 2.0 before long. Technically they did years ago. They said that they would never do that. That was part of the reason why that was one of the big joke updates, is that would never happen. That was the thing that first implemented horses, the fake horses and stuff, and ponies, and stained glass. But I think that now might be the time to do 2.0 for Minecraft, even though it's been years. And I think that would be a reasonable assumption to make, is maybe when they do truly massive updates that are fully changing the world, those would be the big obviously 2.0 Minecraft 2.0, and eventually 3.0, blah 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 blah. I don't expect them to do 3.0 ever, but those would be the big updates. And then the drop system, which is what we currently have, those would be 2.1 or so on and so forth. Right now, I think right now we've been sitting at 1.22 point whatever. I don't even remember what we're at right now because it's getting big. So I think that they are going to change that so that it's no longer going to be that system, or it's going to be a similar system. And basically, the big so 1.0, 2.0, blah 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 blah. That will be the system that will say, "Hey, this is the biggest update. These are the really big updates." The drops will then be the middle digit, and then the last digit will be the minor updates. Basically, hey, we need to fix a glitch. Hey, we need to do this, and that's all it is. I think that would be a reasonable assumption to make. And yeah, I don't know. It's hard to say, and I'd like to see more things. I'd like to see a lot of things get implemented, and I think that there's a reasonable assumption, considering the fact that they said that this was just the beginning of this update, for the fall update, that they will probably be doing something much bigger. I don't know. What do you think?
I think that sounds like something that could happen.
That all you have to say?
My brain started buffering somewhere in the middle there.
Yeah, that's fine. Oh, yeah. But yeah, I don't know. There's so much that they could be doing, that they could add, that they could do. But I'm gonna go through. I think I want to go through the mentioned mobs, and I want to know what you think they could do with them. So first off,
Alrighty.
Beaver.
That's just waiting for dirty jokes.
Yeah, I'm feeling you were gonna say that. Oh my gosh. But yeah, I think they will probably be. My guess is that it will implement dams to rivers and stuff like that, and various different interesting details with them. Maybe they'll chop down trees just randomly. But yeah, burning spider and lava zombie. I think. And soulfire blaze. Those three all sound like nether mobs to me.
Yeah.
So I don't know exactly what they would do with that. My hope is that if they do that, they will also implement the wildfire at that point. And
That'd be cool.
Yeah, because the nether really feels dead to me, and there's not much going on there. And I think that it would be kind of interesting to see them add more mobs to the nether, because right now...
That's fair. I can agree with that.
Right now, it's just let me make sure I'm saying this right. So there's the piglins, the hoglins, and the wither skeletons. And I think that and their skeletons can spawn there, but they're less common. Oh, and magma cubes. I always forget magma cubes. Oh, and gas. So those guys are pretty much all of the mobs that spawn in the nether. And oh, did I forget Blaze? Yeah, Blaze. But comparatively, it's a much smaller amount than the overworld. And considering the fact that you spend most of your time is either going to be in the nether or in the overworld, I think that there should be more mobs and more life in the nether. Just as a whole. Even though obviously it's supposed to be hell, I think that they should implement more mobs that just like wander around. Maybe some will be actually peaceful. I highly doubt it, but that would be I think that would make sense. So yeah, I think burning spider, lava zombie, and soulfire blaze, and especially the soulfire blaze, because that could be kind of interesting if they like put some more fortresses but these fortresses that specifically spawn in the Soul Sand valleys, those would have the Soulfire Blaze, and I think that would be really cool to see.
All right.
And because that, or if any blaze, like goes over Soul Sand or Soul Soil, it will start burning in blue instead of being on in red. I don't know.
Would be cool.
It would be really cool. I'm gonna skip over this one because I think that that's gonna be terrifying. But giant spider.
No.
Already spiders are massive, but could you imagine what that
I know
could be?
they're fucking huge. Why do we need bigger ones?
Yeah, so that was hinted at, and I don't know why. I don't know what that could be. How big could a giant spider be for this?
I don't care. It's any giant spider is too fucking big.
But yeah, I
that's just about enough of that.
Fair. I think that if they are gonna do anything with, if they are gonna do a giant spider, maybe it will be like a boss, and maybe it will be hard to find. That could make sense to me. But yeah, glowworms. They've mentioned glowworms, which kind of to me that sounds very much like the bug idea that we had earlier, where they'll just be like, oh yeah, these glowworms are basically the fireflies of the underground, and maybe you'll find maybe you'll find like an object or something, and glowworms will be around there, or maybe they'll just be in water, because there's a lot of different things that glowworms are kind of complicated. But they do like water. They like being around water. So I don't know. Then goblin. There's so many things that they could do with that.
I'm here for a good goblin.
Huh?
I'm here for a good goblin.
Yeah, I'm not certain if it would be a good mob or if it would be a bad mob. But I think that whatever they decide to do with that could be a lot of fun. A musician. To me, that sounds like it would be a special wandering villager, and basically it will be playing music, and maybe it will sell you various record discs, and maybe they'll add some record discs, and those will be the only way that you can get those record discs.
I like that idea.
I think that would be very fun. Or it could even another option that it could do is it could also give maybe it could also have like a song like note block description of how to make a specific note block song. And they would, I don't know if they would actually do that, but something to think about. And they would if they did that, it would probably be very simple songs. They're probably not going to go like, yeah, let's play Megalomania in freaking Minecraft, which, granted, people have done that. And it's really complicated. Reindeer, I think that would be fun. That's another.
I love a good reindeer.
Reindeer are fantastic. Snail. I think the snail would basically just be. I think that has two options that they could do. One, it could be another, like the firefly bush, a mob that is specifically just around a specific block, and it's a particle type thing. Or it could be literal snails will be wandering around, and they'll probably be big. And I don't know, they could be cute. They could be really cute, and I just hope that they don't implement the freaking immortal snail bullshit.
Immortal snail?
You don't know about the immortal snail?
No.
Okay, so there's this this thing called the immortal snail, where basically a snail is coming to kill you. Um, and it's constantly moving at the same rate, and if it gets to you, it kills you. So you have to basically keep moving, or else it will kill you.
That's exciting.
Yeah. It's been referenced a lot in Minecrafters have actually kind of fallen in love with this idea, and there's a mod that was implemented that was created by I don't know who exactly created it, but it was primarily created for the Life series done by Green and a few of his friends, and that was a huge one of the biggest parts of that was the immortal snail, and it was extremely deadly. So yeah. And then yeah, so there's that. Before I do the final mob, I'm gonna go back to a mob, the Cobble Creeper.
The Cobble Creeper?
Yes, the Cobble.
What the fuck is that?
To me, it sounds like it's a creeper that would be better at hiding underground.
Oh god, no.
So, like, obviously, it would be made out of cobble, so you could still probably make it out, like you can with it with a regular creeper above ground, but it would be of similar level to that, because currently, when you're underground, regular creepers stand out like a sore thumb, and granted, that's a good thing. It's extremely helpful to survive down there, but could you imagine if a cobble creeper existed? That would be terrifying. That would suck. And I think that the way that they would do it is that the maybe the standard creeper only spawns above ground and in lush caves, and then the cobble creeper will spawn everywhere else, and would make it so freaking dangerous.
That would be interesting.
And terrifying.
That too.
Okay. And then the last of the mentioned mobs is a troll.
Alright, I can get behind a troll.
Right? Like, that would... I don't know if it... like, would they make it, like, freaking massive? Like, say, the... if I'll just use Spiderwick as an example. The water troll or the earth troll, where it's... those things are freaking massive. Or would it be smaller, like on the same size as like maybe half the height of a standard of the player, but it's like maybe it will give you riddles or some shit. I don't know. Whatever way that it decides to go, I think that it could be really freaking interesting and kind of creepy, and I love that. I'm not certain exactly how they would play with that. There's so many various versions of trolls, and I kind of love them.
Yeah, I can get behind a troll.
Like, yeah. I don't know exactly how what they would do with it. I'm not certain if they would make it small, basically, like I said, maybe half the height of a player, and or would they make it big? Because there's a lot of different versions of those, where maybe like from twice the height of a player to freaking massive. Holy crap! There are some trolls that are just so freaking big. They could be they could go all the way in, and that would be the replacement for the giant, because the giant has never been properly implemented, and
that's true.
I would like to see the giant actually be implemented. If they decide to go in the direction where the giant gets replaced by the troll, I would actually be kind of here for it, and if especially if it's another possibility that people are kind of talking about is a sky update where there could be floating islands, because that's kind of been hinted at for years, and the guy who made the Aether mod is currently involved with Mojang, so I could see that happening. Um, and maybe like if you get up there, which now is not that hard, you could basically do that if you just get a Happy Ghast. And Happy Ghasts are pretty easy to get at this point in time comparatively. So, yeah. Like it's harder if you are playing with frickin' whatchamadoodle. It's harder if it's like early game, but by late game, once you have like the Elytra, it would be super easy to get up to the sky. So exact details, I would say probably anything if there's floating islands, they should be challenging to get to, but they shouldn't be well, they should be challenging, but they shouldn't be too challenging, if you get what I'm saying. I'd say probably
challenging but not impossible.
Yeah. Maybe standard end level, like of challenge, not bosses, massive freaking bosses all over the place. I think that a reasonable assumption that they could do is like the troll or the giant spider could basically be like random bosses that could be up there, similar like of the same level, say, as the Elder Guardian. Or the Red Dragon, because that was also that was a thing that was like kind of talked about years and years ago, and they've just never implemented it. So, and I think that would be a fun idea to do as well, is because currently the Happy Gas is more meant for, hey, you don't you can actually build, it'll be easier to build with. It's not fast, but a dragon-like thing, I think that would be a lot of fun. And basically it could be like a level between the getting the Elytra and the Happy Ghast, because obviously you can go extremely fast with the Elytra, but the dragon could be like, you ride on it and it will maybe you could have it do some various attacks to your enemies, and it's faster than a Happy Ghast, but slower than the Elytra, because the Elytra is obviously a challenge to move around with, or it's harder to maneuver with the Elytra than it is with the Happy Ghast. So kind of a midway point between the two. And yeah, like I said, it could be basically once you've done the net, so it'd be something that you would get to go to once you've been to the Nether, and then obviously by that point you're probably ready to go. Shortly after that, you'll be ready to go to the end and face off against the Ender Dragon. I don't know.
Fair enough.
I'm spitballing. I'm having fun. It's I have a lot of ideas. But yeah.
You should pitch to Mojang.
Consider this your pitch, Mojang. I don't know. They watch a lot of Minecraft videos, so I think that there's a chance that they'll see this at some point. But I don't know. But yeah, and then the I'm curious though. Obviously you've heard the mobs that I've mostly been talking about, mobs that they've already talked about. What is a mob that you would really want to see? Something that that has not been mentioned, but is some creature in the real world, or it could be something that some mythical creature. What would you want to see in Minecraft at some point?
Unicorns.
Unicorns? What kind?
Unicorns. The kind from Skandar.
I knew it. Oh, that would be so much fun. Oh, that would, yeah. Oh, that would be fun. I think they would have a lot of, they'd have to talk with Stedman though about that. I don't know. Maybe not.
No, because if they just made unicorns that aren't fuzzy, aren't fluffy and cuddly, that's
Yeah,
not only an AF Stedman thing. I read about unicorns like that decades ago in
true.
a book I got from the book fair called Zombies versus Unicorns.
Okay. Yeah, that's fair. So they could do that. I think that I'm kind of wondering if they would implement something where kind of similar to what with Skandar, where there are like there's the hostile unicorns, but maybe you'd be able to tame them. It would be a challenge to tame them, but you could tame them, and then that would be fun. I don't know if they would do it. I really don't. I think they're more likely to go down the route of friendly unicorn if they're going to implement unicorns.
Yeah, that's true.
But if it, would you still be down for it if it was just friendly unicorns?
Yes.
Okay, cool. Oh, now, you know what? I was actually kind of thinking that you might say shark, um, but
Ooh, that's a good one too.
yeah, they've
Whale shark.
they've specifically said that they will not implement a hostile mob from the real world. So anything, all from this point forward, um, all mobs that are hostile are not real creatures, which obviously that's not completely the case in real life, or that's not the case when it comes to all mobs in Minecraft. Um, because there are some mobs that are still pretty hostile or can be hostile, that are realistic mobs. Um, Mostly it's just neutral mobs though. Like the llama will spit at you, the wolves will attack you if you attack them, polar bears will attack you if you approach their cub, and I didn't think dolphins were neutral, but I guess they are. Um, and yeah. And then obviously spiders are technically they're neutral, but they're almost most of the time that you see them, they're hostile. Um, and goats will ram into you if you. So yeah. So they have neutral mobs. They don't have hostile mobs, and I think that that's a thing that they should be thinking about when it comes to the shark. Is like you can be safe around sharks, but every now and again they will attack you. I think that a reasonable assumption to one thing that they might do is I don't know. I don't know exactly how they would implement sharks because they obviously they don't want them to be super hostile, but I think that they could make them neutral in some way, shape, or form. Because sharks aren't evil; they won't just attack you out of just for no reason. Um, but they can attack you for no reason. So it's weird. Um, I don't know. I'd like to see more aquatic mobs. Like I would also like to see an octopus at some point. That would be fun. Um,
I like the squids a lot. To be
yeah,
honest.
yeah.
An
Squids are so
octopus would be
derpy.
cool.
Octopus would be cool. I think that they would probably be like on the they'd be probably more on the floor of the or the bottom
You know
of
what
the
else would be
ocean.
cool?
What's up?
Besides whale sharks, like sea stars.
Yeah, that would be fun. I think that could be a lot of fun. Um, I don't know. There's a lot of really interesting mobs that they could implement, both from real life and from not real life. Another thing that I would like to see is a griffin.
Ooh, that would be good.
That would be so much fun to be able to ride on a griffin. Yes, please. Honestly, more rideable mobs in general. That would be fantastic. Like, could you like a warg?
Agreed.
A warg would be amazing.
Yes. Dire wolf.
Yeah, exactly. Um, Various flying mobs. Um, like have fun with it. Don't just be like, okay, yeah, you can ride your horse, blah 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 blah. I think another option that they could do is adding ponies. Because they never that was one thing that they never added from the joke update is ponies versus horses. Basically the way that they that um like in that joke update, horses were basically just retextured cows, and ponies were retextured pigs. So I don't know. I think that like a smaller version of a horse would make sense. I don't know exactly how exactly they would handle it. But I'd be down for a pony to be available. Um, and other various mobs. I think that uh, uh, big mobs. I think actually that's one thing that I've been saying for a while is that they should implement mobs from the other games, and like Legends specifically has mounts and very specific mounts. They have a big bird, a big beetle, a big frog, and a tiger as mounts. Like I would love to see all of those get implemented as mounts in regular Minecraft. I'm not certain
I would
exactly.
love that.
That it'll obviously would be kind of it could be complicated, but I don't know. I kind of like that idea. Um, there were and like I said, implement some mobs from the other games. Like in dungeons, there's like a shit ton of mobs. Holy crap, there are so many. Granted, most of them are not friendly. Most of them are hostile mobs. Um, but there's a lot of different mobs. Like they have clams as a mob. They have yeah, various different things that you can do in dungeons that I'd be down for. I'd be so down to see like a whole bunch of these different things. And they have like these pets in that. And I think that even if they were just implemented as just standard mobs would be fine. And then yeah, they did like a whole bunch of hostile mobs. I'm not going to get into all of them. Um, I don't think they would implement even close to all of them when it came to the dungeons mobs. Um, and then the legends mobs, they have a few extra. Yeah, they don't have much in terms of extra passive mobs, but they do have they have a badger and a marmot, which
I like that.
I think that more likely instead of marmots they would probably go for the beaver, because yeah, um, because that seems to be the way that they're going with that. Um, Also, I think we talked a little bit about this before, um, but I would like to see the not the gather allay, the build allay, implemented at some point, which is basically the yellow allay from Legends. And what I could imagine them doing is that you can set up a maybe there will be specific files that will always be in the game, that the build allay can do, and basically it will be a block, and that will basically be how you build the item. Maybe you have to put a chest down and fill that chest with the items that are required for the build, and then you could and then the build allay will build it for you. Um, I think that that could be really fun. Um, and you could also save like specific. You could save builds in there, um, and it will basically put it into your file for your game, for your specific console or whatever it is. So if you're playing on PC, um, there'll be a specific thing, and you can go to any of your worlds, and you'll basically be able to copy that build straight from it. And maybe like if you're in creative, then you don't require, then it doesn't need to have the building supplies. I think that that would be extremely useful for map makers, because a lot of map makers will just basically have to copy and paste their builds using the clone command, and that can be such a pain in the backside. So I don't know exactly.
Yeah, that sounds cool.
It's such a pain. I don't know. We'll see what they do with it. But yeah, I think that that could be interesting. They obviously have like a whole bunch of golems, various different alternate versions of hostile mobs, specifically the piglins. They have like a whole bunch of different versions of piglins, and those are yeah. I think that they could do some cool stuff with that. And then what else? Story mode. They obviously did some stuff, but that's not too big. Earth is the one that would be probably the best thing to look at for them when it comes to various mobs, because there are a ton of mobs that they have in there that they've just never implemented. And I think I said this when it came to the Spring to Life update, is that they should at some point implement a lot of these variant versions of mobs. The pig, the sheep, the cow, the chicken, the rabbit, all of them had like these variant versions, and they just never did anything with them. And I don't know. I think that it could be interesting, but they just never did it. And that was also where the Moo Plume originated. So I don't know. I'm spitballing, and we're nearing an hour long, so that's probably a good spot for us to call it. You're falling asleep.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's probably a good spot for us to call it for today. Hopefully you guys have enjoyed, and we'll talk about we'll probably have we'll probably talk more about this in the coming weeks, because they'll be talking a lot about what's happening when it comes to Minecraft. But I think next week we will probably be talking about the AX, because that's currently happening right now, but it also was a bit chaotic. And it's hard to keep track of everything happening over there. So I think that waiting until then is probably the best option for that. But anyways, guys, hopefully you've enjoyed today's live stream. I've been Electro Ninja, he's been Jack, and we will see you guys in the next time. But on.